Hi everybody. I am going to just make sure I'm appearing on the camera and I can see everyone's comments. Hopefully I can. Aha! There we are. Okay. It is 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and that means it's time for Colavita Cooking Live. I am your host, Elena Yachafano, and welcome to another episode of Colavita Cooking Live. And I am super excited to share this recipe with you because even though it is still pizza month and we have a ton of amazing pizza content over on colavita.com, we are deviating from pizza today, but not so sadly, because we are celebrating Halloween, or preparation for Halloween. And so I'm bringing you a really delicious, spooky treat that you can make this week for Halloween. It is they are actually pumpkin spice tres leches cakes. Cupcakes. Pumpkin spice tres leches cupcakes. Can you say that 5 times fast? Anyway, before we get to it, a few housekeeping items. First of all, please, if you have comments, put them into our Facebook post and I'll be able to read them, I hope. I'm going to be checking the comments as I go through everything, so I'll be able to field your questions. And if I don't get to it while I'm on the air, I will circle back later and try and get your comments then. And you may have some comments or questions. So I will be watching. Feel free just to say hi, talk about maybe your Halloween costume. I don't know. Okay, so let's get to it. The great thing about this recipe is it is really, really easy and it's fun. If you have kids and you want to get them involved in the kitchen, I think this is a great recipe to, bring them along because there are a few things that kids are going to like to do in addition to eating them because these are delicious. So let's see. Hi Arlene, love the idea. Yes, welcome back Arlene. It's a perfect idea. Now I happen to love pumpkin pie. It's one of my favorite desserts and my mom would always have to make it for me for my birthday. My birthday's in the fall, so it makes sense. So I always wanted pumpkin pie, but I also really love tres leches cake. If you guys don't know what a tres leches cake is, it's like a sheet cake that is vanilla. Our version is obviously made with olive oil. I'm going to use our premium selection extra virgin olive oil, and I think the taste is perfect for this cake. Because you have the squash, pumpkin's a squash, and I think it really pairs nicely. So it's a cake that is soaked in a combination of evaporated, sweetened condensed milk, and half and half. And you kind of let that soak. So the resulting cake it's very wet, but it's sweet and it's just so delicious. And then you top it with a whipped cream topping. It's fabulous. It's one of my favorites. And the pumpkin spice kind of adds to that. If you like a pumpkin spice flavor, I know I do, this is a great combination. Now what we're going to do is, this cake is a perfect example of mix your dry ingredients, mix your wet ingredients, and then combine them. So the first step is that we are going to whisk together all our dry ingredients. Now I've halved this recipe because I'm going to have a lot of cupcakes after this, and I need to minimize the amount of cupcakes in the house. But I'm going to use 2 cups of flour, and we're going to use a medium mixing bowl here and get our 2 cups of flour in there. And there's our recipe. It's just been posted into the comments. So if you want to check the recipe and follow along, please feel free to check that out. Now, one thing about this cake is because it's going to be soaked in these different kinds of milks, it's a very sturdy cake. A delicate cake would probably fall apart and crumble. You don't want that to happen, especially as we're going to be making it into cupcakes. So I've got my flour, and now I've got my spices. I've got 2 teaspoons of cinnamon, ground cinnamon. I have some freshly grated nutmeg, some ginger, ground ginger, and some allspice. We're gonna get all of that in there. Plus I have baking soda, baking powder, and some salt. Okay, that is really it, very basic. So I'm gonna whisk those together. And it already smells delicious because I love the ginger and the cinnamon. It's just so good. Oh, it's like potpourri in a bowl of flour. Okay, we're gonna set this aside. And then we are going to mix our wet ingredients. So I'm gonna get a slightly bigger bowl. This one might be overkill, but it's okay. It's gonna do. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is add all our wet ingredients. So, witch's fingers, shortbread dough with an almond fingernail embellished with jam for blood. Okay, so Arlene has suggested her favorite Halloween treat, and I would invite you to write some of yours in the comments. But they are called witch's fingers, which are a shortbread dough with an almond fingernail embellished with jam for blood. So cute, I love that. I do love seeing all the Halloween treats. Now, I had a spatula. Here it is. Okay, so I have a can of pumpkin puree. Now, instead of buying a can of pumpkin puree, you could purchase a sugar pumpkin and roast it yourself if you wanted to go au naturel like that. Certainly something I would encourage. We have 3/4 of a cup of our Colavita Premium Selection olive oil. Now, this is the 2-liter jug that I have here, and I love this jug specifically because I go through a lot of olive oil, and this one is so nice because it's 2 liters and it has these little divots in the side to fit my hand. So I just end up using these guys all the time. But of course, our bottle, which is right here, and I'll put it up front, is very beautiful as well. Okay, so I've got to watch my spatula, pumpkin and my olive oil, and I am also going for the sugar here. This is a cup of sugar that's going to go in there. Just going to scrape this off, use it in a second. A teaspoon of vanilla and 4 eggs. And what you want to do is add the eggs one at a time so you can incorporate them and then add the next one. So I'm going to go ahead and try to do this gracefully. 1. Okay, and then I've got my whisk. So I'm going to get that all incorporated. Let's see. And then I will add the other one. So I'm only, again, I halved the recipe for this purpose, so you would add 4 eggs. I am just adding 2. Twist. Okay. And at this point, you have this beautiful orange color. Let me see if I can lift this for you guys to see. It is, it still looks like pumpkin puree, but it's got our sugar, our olive oil, vanilla, and eggs all in there. So now what we're going to do is we're going to gradually add our dry ingredients back to our wet. This is pretty standard, right? Simple sheet cake style stuff. So I'm going to put in about half of it. Scrape that right in there. And I'm going to use my whisk to incorporate this. Now again, this is going to be a pretty sturdy cake. So it's going to be a very wet batter. It's going to be probably thicker than a pancake batter. We're going to find out in just a second. Now I have made this recipe before. I made it once a couple years ago. 2 years ago? Maybe. It has been that long already. 2 years ago, and I made it at the Colavita office, and it was a big hit. Everyone loved this. It is a dangerous recipe because it is delicious. Okay, so as you can see, this is pretty thick. To me, that's thicker than pancake batter for sure. All right, so I just want to make sure all of that is incorporated. I'm not very concerned with over mixing this one, but it mixes together pretty nicely, so you shouldn't be too worried. Okay, now the cupcake part. Okay, so we've got our batter, and we have our cupcakes. So you have a couple options here. Oh, okay, Joan says that her grandkids love the hot dog mummies. Those are adorable, by the way. We did something like that for 4th of July, hot dogs wrapped in crescent rolls. They look like little firecrackers. It was really cute. And we did pasta mummies too. Those are on our website. We used our Colavita pasta nests and put little olives for the eyes, and they baked them in little ramekins, and they looked like little mummies. It was really cute. Oh, and over the top we cut strips of provolone cheese for the little mummy wrappings. Very adorable. That one's on the website for sure. Let me get a spoon. Okay, so you have two options here. You could either coat a little bit of Colavita olive oil in the bottom of the muffin tin, or you could use some liners. I think if maybe you're having a very small family-only party for Halloween, because I know big parties are not really happening right now, you might want to do the wrappers just because it's really easy. Somebody can just take their own, you don't have to worry about cutting a cake, get everybody's hands in it. You can just take your own and be off with it. So in this case, I like the wrappers. I think they work really well. So what we're going to do is we're going to fill, it's going to be tricky here. No matter how much space you have in the kitchen, I feel like you always want more space. Never enough space. Okay, so we are going to fill these about 3/4 of the way full, because they will rise. So we'll get that batter in there. Hi, Mary Frances. Sorry I'm late. Don't worry. Party is just getting started. And if you are late, first of all, my name is Elena, and we are making pumpkin spice tres leches cupcakes. And the recipe is posted in the post, so you can check it out there. All right, filling our cupcakes. I think I can fill a little bit more, actually. So, let's see. What else do I love about this recipe? I mean, I love so much about this recipe. I really can't express to you enough how much I love tres leches cake. I went to a party, an engagement party a long time ago, and the couple who was they were very into food. I guess you would call them foodies, although I know that term is way overused. But the husband-to-be was announcing what the menu would be for the night to all the audience before him, his guests. And when he came to dessert, he said, and for dessert, we have tres leches cake. And there was total silence in the group of friends assembled, except for me, who stuck up both her hands and said, yes! And he looked at me and he said, you're hired. And I said, thank you. Because I know how delicious it is. It is really one of my favorites. All right. We are going to finish up with these. And I think that is pretty good. I do have some more. So maybe I will just take a few more liners. And maybe I can get a few more cupcakes. This recipe makes a lot, which is great, I think. Especially, let's talk about the recipe and what it makes and how you can use that. So we are going to bake these. So your oven should be preheated to about 350 degrees. Oh, I'm going to sleep. And you're going to bake them for about 20 minutes. So if you were baking a full cake, you would probably bake it for 25 to 30 minutes. But because they're cupcakes, they are going to bake up a little bit faster. So, about 20 minutes is totally fine. I would test it with a toothpick and make sure that the center comes out, that there are no crumbs clinging to the toothpick. So that is how you know it's done. But this is half of the recipe, and I have 10 cupcakes. It's pretty good. So get everything in here. Last fits. Okay, perfect. Stack my dirties over there. Okay, so I have these ready. Now again, preheat your oven to 350. We're gonna bake them about 20 minutes. I would check them, you know, at 15 just to see how things are going, but you want them completely baked. And then you will take them out of the oven and let them cool for about 5 minutes. They don't need to be completely cooled, but just a little so you can handle them. They're not piping hot. That would be good. 5 to 10 minutes. Okay, the magic oven, as I like to call it. You guys see these guys? Yes, ice cream scoop. That is great. Arlene, I'm going to take your tip for the next show on Instagram and use the ice cream scoop. I wasn't thinking. Okay, so we have our little muffins. Look how cute they are. They're pretty adorable, actually. And they're in their little wrappers still. So I've taken them out of the muffin tin and put them on a parchment-lined baking sheet. And that is mostly to control the mess I'm about to make. And when I talked about your kids getting involved, this is something they might enjoy, although you might not, because your kitchen might get a little messy. So we're going to talk about what happens now. So remember I mentioned the condensed milk and the evaporated milk? You're going to need those. A can of each and 3/4 of a cup of half and half. And this takes a little bit of time. I have this stuff already mixed in this wonderful little jar. You're going to need a fork, and you're going to pierce holes in the cupcakes. And you don't have to worry too much that this is going to make your cupcakes ugly on top, because you're not going to see it. The reason that you're piercing these holes is I'm going to pour this mixture over the cupcakes and let it soak in. And so this is what makes that moist, wet cake. So you need to soak it, and you also want to make sure that you're not just pouring it over the top of the cupcakes, but it's actually going inside in there. And so that is why we are making holes. You could also use like a skewer, something like that. Okay, so a tip for this, and something you can do instead of just pouring, and also really fun, is you can get a pastry brush and kind of brush it over. Because again, it is kind of messy. So you can kind of do like this, and that controls the mess a little bit. And what I'd like to do is move on to some of the other cupcakes, let that soak in, and then come back for another round. So like I said, you know, it's like painting your house, painting a wall in the house. You do a first coat, you let it dry, you come back, you do another. Maybe you do a third, depending. But this is how you're going to get all that moisture in there. And to be honest, we have tried this. It doesn't make the bottom of the cupcake really sticky, so you can still like hold it. That wrapper isn't very sticky. It's a really, it really works. I like to give you guys recipes that work, because that is what I would want. Okay, we're gonna do another coat of this, and I'm gonna check the comments. Okay. So what I would do after this is, there's a bit of a process. What I would do is we're going to cover these with some plastic wrap or lid of some kind, and we're going to put them in the fridge for at least 4 hours. You could leave them overnight. So this is a really great thing to prep ahead. You could even make the cupcakes way ahead of time, and then you could freeze them, thaw them out a week later or so, and then do the rest of this process. But this is a great thing to do the day before. I think this is kind of like you know, for a cupcake, it's kind of like a stew. The more it sits, the more the flavors develop. So think of it like that. And the fridge time is really that time where the liquid can absorb into all the nooks and crannies of the cupcake, and it'll really take on that flavor and that moisture. So don't skimp on the resting and waiting for frosting. However, I am going to skimp on it in the effort of showing you how to frost them. Do as I say, not as I do. Okay, so this looks pretty good to me, I think. You know, I mean, always err on the side of putting more liquid on top. They say less is more, but I really feel like in this case, that is not true. More is more. Okay, so now we have our liquefied cupcakes, or, you know, added liquid cupcakes, and we're going to put this in the fridge covered with some plastic wrap for 4 hours. Let us pretend that I'm doing that. We're going to take it out of the fridge now. Okay, so what happens here now is that we get to ice them. And I'm going to show you how to do that, and then I'm going to show you the finished ones that have been soaking, and they will be, you know, perfect example for you. One thing I would do before this goes in the fridge is I would take the time just to clean the parchment, or completely take the parchment off and then refrigerate without it, because that will prevent your cupcakes from getting too sticky. So I'm just going to do that right now. I'm going to take this parchment off of here. I think that's a pretty good tip. And then put your cupcakes back on. You might want to wipe the bottoms clean a little bit just to get any residual condensed and sweetened milks off the bottom. Okay, here are our cupcakes. There we go. So now what we're going to do is we have the whipped cream. And the whipped cream is just that. It is heavy cream, whipped, and then we added a little vanilla, a little granulated sugar, and a little cinnamon. So all those flavors kind of match. I think a little sugar, you could use confectioner's sugar or white sugar. It just helps to sweeten up that cream. The cinnamon, obviously, for a little spice, and the vanilla for that vanilla flavor. And you're gonna get your whipped cream, and we're gonna put that on top. So let's do it, shall we? Okay. So what I like to do is just kind of start with a little dollop of whipped cream, and I have a spatula here. Now I like an offset spatula usually. I can't find mine. So we have this, and you can ice these in any way. If you wanted to put this into a piping bag and do it that way, you could, but I'm going to go for a little bit of a rustic look because it's Halloween, and so I'm just going to clean up the edges and leave the tops kind of flat, like so. Don't be afraid to use as much icing as you like. But I like to get it out of here with the spatula, place it on there, and then shape it around with the spatula. But a piping bag would work wonders. If you don't have a piping bag, don't panic. You can always use a Ziploc bag or a plastic bag with a little hole cut into it and pipe the icing out that way. But, you know, sometimes fewer steps is a good thing. Okay, so we have another little whipped cream hat. We're gonna do one more. Actually, we're gonna do 2 more. Whoops. Whipped cream everywhere. Okay. I'd love to know if there are any pumpkin pie lovers out there in the audience. If you can let me know in the comments. We have a few amazing pumpkin pie recipes on colavita.com in the recipe section. And the fun thing about these recipes is they all use an olive oil crust, which I think is really nice, actually. It looks pretty good, except I was a little messy there, huh? We'll clean up just a bit. So, I mean, I love pumpkin pie. And I love our olive oil crust. It is really easy, and it works really well actually with a pumpkin cheesecake. We have that recipe on the website as well. So another thing I really like is pumpkin flavored cheesecake. Yum! This is another great treat. I mean, not only for Halloween, but also for fall. Maybe if you're thinking of a fun little treat for Thanksgiving, this is a perfect one for that. Okay. We are almost done. That looks pretty good. So fun. I don't know who wouldn't want that cupcake, honestly. All right, pumpkin pie is my second favorite pie. What is your, oh, sweet potato. Camellia says sweet potato is better than pumpkin. How long will the icing hold up? The icing, this is a great question. The icing will hold up a very long time. So, I'll bring out the others that I had. They were made this morning, but the icing should hold up for the entire day, especially if you keep them in the fridge. They should be totally fine. Once they're sitting on the counter, you know, I think you want to try to keep them out for no more than 4 hours, but you know, they should be fine all day in the fridge, maybe even into tomorrow. I can report back on that because I certainly won't be eating all of these tonight. Now for a little finishing touch, I have this little guy here and a spoon and some ground cinnamon. And I am just gonna do a little finishing touch over the top of grated cinnamon. You could also add some grated nutmeg if you like, that kind of thing. I'm just keeping it simple here. All right, and then you have your finished cupcakes. Now I'm gonna bring out the ones that are really finished. Apparently I have some extra whipped cream. I'm gonna have to take care of that. Oh my goodness, that is good. Okay, here are our finished babies. And as you can see, so these were made this morning and the icing looks great. A little neater than the ones I just did, but that's okay. And they're still in their wrappers, so I'm going to do a big reveal here. I'm sure you guys kind of want to see me eat this thing. Oh my goodness. I'm going to need a fork. Actually, no. A cupcake should not be eaten with a fork. Does anyone have an opinion on this? All right, we're just going to go for it. That was really good. So you can see, do I have whipped cream on my face? You can see all the condensed milks up there. They're still holding, and the cake is just really moist. It has really good pumpkin flavor. And what's nice about the icing is because it's mostly whipped cream, it's not a lot of sugar. So you have a lot of sugar happening, or a lot of sweetness actually, just happening in the cake itself because you use your sweetened condensed milk and your evaporated milk. So it's nice to have a less sweet frosting. You don't really want to add more sweet on top of sweet because then you won't be able to detect any of the pumpkin flavors. So having that whipped cream is not only a perfect match flavor-wise, but it's also just texturally wonderful and it's easier. I mean, you don't have to make extra icing. How great is that? So that about sums it up. How easy is that? So just to review, dry ingredients and wet ingredients, and you add your dry to your wet. You throw them into some cupcake liners in a cupcake tin, bake it at 350 degrees for 20 minutes. Then we get to the fun soaking part with the sweetened condensed milk. Throw that in the fridge for about at least 4 hours. Take it out and do our icing. And these guys are delicious. I am eyeing the rest of that cupcake, let me tell you that much. Anyway, let me check the comments. What whipping cream holds longer? Oh, so yes, of course, whipping cream would hold longer with cream of tartar. Absolutely. Cream of tartar acts as a stabilizer. I honestly don't know if you need it, but you could try it. I mean, again, these are holding up really well. So you could definitely give that a shot for sure. Looks delicious. Thank you. I'm going to make these for Thanksgiving. Thanks for the tutorial. I hope you do. If you do make this recipe, please tag us at Colavita USA on Instagram or post in Facebook. We would love to see your creations. And if you'd like to stay up to date with all that we have happening on Colavita.com and Colavita Cooking Live, you can head over to Colavita.com and sign up for our newsletter where we will send these recipes straight to you so you can be alerted to when the episodes are happening, what we're making, and any other fun stuff like sales or new products that might be happening. So please go over and sign up for our newsletter. Next week, we are taking a break because here in the States, it is Election Day, and we know a lot of you might be running around to, get your ballots in whatever way your state is choosing to do that. So we want to give you enough time to take care of that and, deal with that situation. So we're going to come back on November 10th where we are going to have something really exciting for you. Just figured out what it was today. So we hope that you will come back at us on November 10th at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. And of course, you can rewatch this on Facebook. And at 3 p.m., I'm hoping to see some of you again on Instagram at Colavita USA at 3 p.m. Eastern Time on Instagram. So thank you so much for joining me today. If you have any extra questions, please feel free to add them to the comments and I will do my best. Thank you, Joan. I hope you do make them. Take care, everybody. Ciao for now. Mm-hmm.